everyone, my name is Emily Sanderell and I'm the Interpretive Education Specialist here for the Yuma Crossing National Heritage Area. I'm super excited to be joining you this week to talk about and celebrate the Women's Suffrage Centennial, which is a celebration of the 100th anniversary of the 19th Amendment, which made it unconstitutional for states to deny voting rights on the basis of sex. This is a subject that is near and dear to my heart because I am a woman and I'm able to have a say in my government today because of all the incredibly brave women and a few men that fought for women's suffrage more than 100 years ago. So let's get started. Many of you might be asking, what exactly is suffrage? Well, quite simply, suffrage means having the right to vote. So when we talk about women's suffrage, we're talking about women fighting for their right to vote. And today, that might not feel so radical, but it is. The vote is what allows people to have a say in their government. In fact, the United States is based on this idea of having a voice. Think back to your history class. The American Revolution started because colonists were being denied a vote in British Parliament. We've all heard the phrase, no taxation without representation, right? Unfortunately, when the United States did gain its independence and began forming our new government, the only people who were given the right to vote were land-owning white men. This left out women and minorities, meaning that initially about 70% of Americans did not have a say in their own government. The justification for excluding minorities was that they weren't considered citizens. Therefore, they shouldn't get a voice. African Americans were still largely slaves at this point in our nation's history, and Native American tribes were still treated as independent nations separate from the new United States. The exclusion of women, however, specifically white women, is a bit more complicated. For one, it was a common belief that women were incapable of being political actors. They just weren't able to think about and understand politics the ways that men could. Second, it was expected that daughters and wives believed the same things that their fathers and husbands believed. This is part of a larger concept called coverture. So, if a woman believes the same thing as her father or husband, then they didn't need their own independent voice. Nevertheless, right from the beginning, American women resisted this idea. Abigail Adams wrote to her husband John while he was at the Continental Congress, imploring him to, quote, remember the ladies and be more favorable and generous to them than your ancestors. Do not put such unlimited power into the hands of husbands. Remember, all men would be tyrants if they could. If particular care and attention is not paid to the ladies, we are determined to foment a rebellion and will not hold ourselves bound to any laws in which we have no voice or representation. End quote. Despite some resistance from early American women, like Abigail Adams, American women did not begin to come together on a national scale until the 1848 Women's Rights Convention in Seneca Falls, New York. It was here that Elizabeth Cady Stanton, along with 100 other attendees, including Frederick Douglass, signed the Declaration of Sentiments, which declared, quote, we hold these truths to be self-evident, that men and women are created equal, end quote. Part of this document also claimed that in order for women to be truly equal, they needed the right to vote. This became the rallying cry for the women's suffrage movement all over the nation. Unfortunately, it would take another 72 years after this convention for women to finally win the right to vote. It took 3 generations of strong women to pass the 19th Amendment. But that's a conversation for tomorrow. I hope you enjoyed getting to learn more about women's suffrage and what it means. Come back tomorrow for a video all about the struggles and triumphs of the national suffrage movement. Until then, head over to our social media pages or the description below to find some links and resources to help you Keep on celebrating. Bye, everybody.